Good morning and welcome to the CADclass podcast. I'm Josh.
I'm Jake.
And let's get right into it, Jake. I want to say hello to some people in the chat. Sam. Good morning, Sam. Good morning, PC Van Fleet. Aaron Rosen, Derry, Ogre, the usual suspects. Spitfire.
Best crowd in the world. Good morning, everyone. Hope you're having a rad Wednesday. Dude, I want to do a big project today. I have a project that's probably going to take maybe 20 minutes, half an hour, who knows, at the end of the pod today. But it's something that I've been meaning to do for like a month. And I'm like, no. Today's the day to do it. I'm going to be doing some workshop infrastructure projects. I'm finally going to be organizing all of my endless amounts of wrenches that have just been clattering inside of my tool cart for like a month. And so that's going to be my project for the day. But I think we should get into showing off some of the people on our Discord as always.
Let's do it.
Dude, you guys have made some killer projects this week, by the way.
Yeah.
Good Lord, have you guys really, really shown off this week?
Yeah.
Here we are. So really quick, Joestry, moderator, combat robots, as always, finally posting up kind of an update on his horizontal spinner. Dude, this looks so rad. I am so excited to see it. So it's a 1.5 pound. I think is that Beetle? I know Ant is 1 pound. I think Beetle is 3 pounds. So this is somewhere in the middle. This looks absolutely rad. There's a bunch of really, really interesting kind of design elements in this, and there's a bunch of really funky 3D printing stuff in there as well. I don't know if you guys can see all of the triangles on here, the kind of prismatic thing. That's actually from a build plate that actually has that design etched into it. And so anything that you print on, that you pull out, actually has that kind of polygon faceted design kind of built into it, which looks so rad. He's got this really, really funky kind of caterpillar crawler that we've seen before. And then instead of actually having a roller or any wheels on the front, he's just using some panhead bolts as kind of a skidder on the front. But the thing that I'm really interested by is that he's got what looks like a fairly thick front spinner, but it's 3D printed plastic. And I've seen quite a few of these to know that these horizontal spinners, they smash into each other. They absolutely destroy themselves through and through. And oh my gosh, I'm so stoked to see how this actually survives.
And it's, by the way, that we're going to find out this weekend. So this weekend is the event. Yeah. So if you happen to be in the Virginia area, send us a note or send Joestry a note on Discord. You should totally go and check this event out on Saturday. It's coming up on Saturday, and you'll see the not even version 1, but you'll see the CADclass logo sprayed on their arena.
I'm kind of excited to see that get shredded up. That's one of my favorite bits about battle pods, where it's like this bulletproof cage that all of them are in just gets absolutely destroyed, and like plywood gets ripped up and shred, and the glass gets all broken. That's rad. So excited for you guys. I would love to know just how many robots are actually going to be competing in it, because that's going to be just phenomenal to see. Best of luck to everyone. Best of luck to Joestry. I'm sure it's going to be a fantastic event. Keep us posted on everything. Good luck.
Good luck. Win some events, and at the very least, come back and show us the shredded bot.
Yes. I think we all deserve to see a before and after.
That's right.
Yes, that's what I want to see. The weapon is 120 G or 120 grams. God, that's heavy. That's really heavy.
Yeah.
The solid plastics. That's gonna be smashed. Oh my gosh, that's intense. Okay, Joestry, so excited for that, man. Going into the challenges, Daria coming back and redoing some of the old challenges.
Wow.
And just showing off to everyone.
Yeah.
Look
how cool I am.
Look how good I am now. Yeah.
It's amazing. It's kind of neat too, because we had said last week, hey, one of the best things you can do after you've completed the course is go back and do it again, because you won't be the same person you were before you started. So this is as proof here. This is amazing.
Yeah. I think one of the things that people really miss when they kind of get into CAD and they go, oh, I'm definitely not going to be using the rendering workspace. I'm never going to use it. I'm just going to skip it. I mean, Josh and I hear this literally every single time that we start off with a new person that's taking our course or going through the entire program. And we both just kind of go, I know you think that. I know you think that you'll never use it. That isn't true, though. Because as soon as you realize just how easy rendering is, people use it in every single project. Even to show off like super duper simple, just like really quick prints, they will render it first just so they can post it. And because it's so rad. And what Dairy's using here that I think a lot of people, they recognize, but they don't internalize, is one of the features in making renderings look really, really realistic is to add props or to add a certain context to their environment they're putting it on. For example, having some dominoes in here that looks so fantastic. Having it on a tabletop in a room makes so much more sense than just having it standing up like I see a lot of people
floating in space.
Yeah, because that's not the natural state. In the same way that when we tell people who are just getting into making their own projects and they go, oh, I don't really know which plane to pick or in what orientation to design it. Is it important? Is it not? And as we all know, it absolutely is important, but it really should be made in the orientation that it makes logical sense in real life. If I'm making, I don't know, something like a phone, it makes more sense for it to be, made in this orientation or flat on the table. Both of those are totally acceptable ways. But upside down and backwards feels a little strange. At an angle in 2 dimensions feels even weirder. There is some kind of intuition that we have coming into CAD design where something just feels wrong or something just doesn't look quite right. And you should absolutely trust that kind of gut instinct. And so designing something in its final orientation is absolutely critical, not only for handing over this design to someone else, but if you decide to turn it into a product and you want to go from that CAD model into a engineering drawing, then you can't reorient it later. That original orientation is locked in place. That's why it is followed with so many kind of strict regulations in engineering. And it is so critical that you design it in the correct orientation right at the get-go, or else as soon as it passes off to a manufacturer or to a product designer or to an advertiser, it's going to look a little funky after the fact. So making it with some props in the right orientation absolutely looks fantastic. My only little criticism of this, Derek, is that the paperclip is not folded underneath the paper. So 1 star, it's fine. This looks fantastic though. And then again with a Lego brick, this looks fantastic. Very shiny metal though. Just in the middle of a courtyard. I would say I definitely
the infinite Lego too. It looks like it
the
doesn't
infinite
end.
Lego void. Yeah. I would say if I was going to rank these, I'd probably say the dominoes look the best, just kind of context wise, then the paperclip, and then the Lego bricks. I would say not the worst, but I think I prefer the other ones. I think they look really, really fantastic. Dude, hats off. Love to see it. Did we go over Connie's projects last week?
Connie is one of the things. Let me brief interlude here. Connie, you're amazing. If you happen to watch this, what I find particularly fascinating about Connie is she seems to be really taking her time on the challenges.
Yes.
And as a teacher and a learner myself, I can say the hardest thing to do is slow down and actually take your time to build some of these challenge ideas because they're truly hard. So Connie has just taken the challenges to the next level. And she has designed some absolutely stunning stuff that is not step by step in the book. And I can assure you, if you get through our book and you've gone through the challenges and you've taken your time like this on these challenges, you will know a heck of a lot about CAD.
Yeah, I completely agree. The challenges, I mean, the ones at the beginning are, I would say, a good challenge, but still fairly simple. But they're still strict. And going off as we go through the book, they do get more and more vague or up to you. And so it kind of pushes you to go, oh God, I kind of need to pick an idea. Don't want it to be too hard. Don't want it to be too easy. And you end up really pushing yourself. And you go, oh, I'll just pick something easy, like a pair of linemen's. And then you realize there's a ton of design that goes into making every single product. So it doesn't matter how simple you think the object you're trying to recreate in CAD is, it's always going to be a fantastic challenge. So making
and check out the rendering too.
I know
in context. In context.
I know that on a workbench makes sense. This on a workbench makes sense. Context is everything, people.
That's right.
Adding in some joints as well, showing off some of the design with it. Dude, this is absolutely fantastic.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Hats off, Connie. You are absolutely crushing it. Amazing.
And then making a little animation for it.
I just love it. I just love it.
Yeah.
Use the skills over and over and over again, and you will know this stuff. So.
Oh yeah, it is. I do wish more people did the challenges, but I do recognize that though some of them are kind of they're bordering on cruel.
Yeah.
I think it's a fair statement. Connie as well, and then coming in with
is Cornelia Connie? Is this what's the thank you? Sure. Now I'm wondering. So if that's you, Connie, you let us know.
Yeah. And then coming up with the carabiner as well. Making this as well. This is actually going to be one of our replacement challenges for the next version of the book as well. So the fact that people can make these is something that I'm really, really excited about. So carabiners, love to see it. This is rad.
So Cornelia is Connie. So there we go.
Well, thank you very much.
Well done. Hats off. If we had hats on, we would remove them to you.
Absolutely fantastic. Coming into the I made I think these are the ones that I posted just this week. We did see one from Snail. I'm not exactly sure what this is. I kind of want them to describe this a little bit more, but looks kind of rad. We'll see. I just wanted to be showing off some of the people in some of the other chats. The final challenge for the space prop hilt, the thing that we all know what it actually is, but for legal purposes, we can't call it the thing, but we all know. The last challenge is to recreate a prop and render it from one of your favorite movies, just to kind of push you a little bit. And Derry making the key. I was like pulling my hair out, like, where have I seen this? And it's the key from Fifth Element. I'm like, that's right. Yes, it is. I totally forgot. From Ian. Oh gosh, what's his name? Ian. Oh, I'm such a bad person. Ian something or other. I love this guy, and I'm such a bad person for forgetting his name. He plays Bilbo Baggins in Lord of the Rings. This is a really complicated prop. I'm also really flippin' impressed. All the texture of the gold on this, where it's all pitted. I actually don't know how you did that, Derry. This is rad. I would really love for you to post an explanation of how you got such a kick-ass texture of the metal for this rendering, because it looks phenomenal. Josh, can you look up who this actor is, because it's really bugging
He's on here. Let's just Derry. Who is this?
No, this is. Oh my gosh.
Wait, who's it? No. I'm saying Derry is on our chat. So we're just gonna ask. Here we have a slight chat delay. So as soon as this pipes through the airwaves to Derry's ears, we will know.
Oh,
and in the meantime, PC Van Vliet says, CADclass, we take hats off to a new level, and says receding hairline. That's right. You know, I can't believe I still have hair, and I'm almost 40 years old. I thought for sure I would have no hair at 40, and I still somehow have a couple of strands of hair left on the top of my head. So I don't know how that happened.
I absolutely hate my hair. It grows way too terribly. Hate it.
Ian
can't wait for me to be bald. Ian Holm fandom.
It's funny because Derry said I'm terrible at names, so it didn't know it, but it was PC Van Vliet and Sam for the W on that one. Yeah. Maple Leaf Makers, good to have you. I love how Maple Leaf Maker signs in and says, I'm sorry I'm late. You know, like this, as if this is a class and we're standing at the front, you know, ready to say, tisk tisk, like, how dare you arrive late to my class? But it's nice to have you, Maple Leaf Makers.
Really quick before we get a fact, talking about Ian Holm. If you've never seen the movie Brazil with Ian Holm, it is It is one of my top 5 favorite movies of all time. It is one of the most wonderful, bizarre, dystopian, creepy but hysterical movies of all time. It's wonderful. It is a cavalcade of people that you go, oh my god, what's his name? I love him. It is a wonderful movie. Brazil. I think it's Terry Gilliam. So it's the same guy that did all of the Monty Python movies. It is unreal how fun it is. And there's a few movie props in there that I've been wanting to recreate for so long. So yeah, here's everyone's homework. Watch Brazil. It's wonderful. Anyway.
So Derry says that pitting is simply just brass old appearance.
Brass old.
Brass.
It is something that I really wish Fusion put in. I think this can be a Jake rant. Why do we not have textures in Fusion 360 or in Autodesk Fusion now? It is, I feel like it's an easy thing to render. I understand that. I recognize that it's harder to actually put on there as a physical representation because that's polygons and that's really complicated and that takes up a lot of data. I completely understand that. That's why there's certain programs that are literally designed to deal with these high polygon textures, things like Blender, where they don't care necessarily about dimensional accuracy, they care about textures. So they will put all of their computing power into it. I get that. That is a different type of software to Fusion. Completely understand. Why can we not add in textures and then export it so it's not even in the viewer? I want that so badly. I've seen so many different CAD softwares where they go, oh, I'm just going to put on like snake skin onto it or a grip or carbon fiber weaving onto it. And then they 3D print it. It has that little texture on the surface. And it looks so rad. And I want that so badly.
So I think I just saw something on Twitter this week about one of the slicing softwares has added that as a feature. I actually think that's going to be handled by the slicers.
I think you're probably right, but it feels doable within Fusion. It totally feels doable. But yeah.
Anyway, PC Van Vliet says, tickle that like button, folks. Yeah. I've never heard it put that way.
That's gross.
Like button tickled.
Super duper rad. Love to see the project. Continuing on with Moses finishing up the hot end.
Something really quickly about this hot end. Yeah, I want you to get, because we have some things to talk about this hot end, but I just want to say kind of like the power of our community right now. We were talking with Ed this week, and I realized we could not have edited this book and caught all of these mistakes and all these little tiny nuances. Like we did, basically we got it out, and we're like, by the end, we're like, okay, at least this is out. Like hopefully the whole world does. Yeah. Hopefully we didn't screw this all up because this was really hard to do. And I'm just so pleased that we have a community of folks who are willing to pop in, show us these mistakes, point them out, have a discussion about it so that in that next version of the book, we can edit it and make it even better. Again, like if we had hired the most professional editor in the world and spent tons of time on this book, I don't think we would have caught a lot of these little things. So super shout out. And I hope I hope you all know that we're always listening and watching and reading, and we plan to take every single bit of feedback you have into consideration for round 2, which is coming out.
And also a massive thank you to everyone as well, because this is just
thank you.
ludicrously
super cool.
Good investigation.
Really good.
Super over the top. Coming on with Paul on the phone stand, finishing this up, making little indentation cutouts for his carbon fiber phone case. This looks rad. Is Paul Hobbyist? Is he on here, Josh?
Who's?
Paul Hobbyist?
I don't think so. Are you talking about on the live stream right now?
Yeah.
I don't think maybe. If you're here, let us know.
But it looks rad.
Yeah.
We did have a question that I didn't quite understand. I think they're a new user, Maddie Testament. So I have a question about the phone case back, not in the middle of the phone case, because my phone case rim is the right size for the phone, but my phone case back is staying in the middle of the case. I cannot find a way to get it back to where it's supposed to be. I'm not quite sure what that meant, so I'm like, I can just post a picture. Just information for anyone on here. If you ever have a question, pictures, video, screenshots, super duper important. Give us that context. It makes so much more sense to us. Here's a picture of the problem. Oh, so it looks like So it looks like that's the backing that's actually passing through the wrong side. So potentially it looks like they added in an offset. If I can zoom in a little bit, there we go. So it looks like they are extruding on the wrong face or to the wrong direction, which is something that is completely. It happens to the best of us. It's not the easiest thing in the world to actually figure out, because obviously Fusion just decides which direction is positive and negative based on your view, and if you change it or orbit around, that all changes. That's just how things have to work, and it makes genuinely confusing sense. So yeah, having
it makes confusing sense. That is.
Does that make sense?
That might be the most confusing way to say something's confusing. So there's a type of irony in there somehow. That makes confusing sense. That makes confusing sense. Almost feels like a backhanded compliment, right? like somebody says something to you and you tell them, that makes confusing sense. That's what it feels like to me.
It's like when someone compliments you for having like an ugly sweater. You're like,
yeah, excuse me? Yeah.
Appreciate it.
That's right.
I don't.
Makes confusing sense. I'm going to try to use that. Yeah, so maybe one of your small
use that in a
meeting and use that in a sentence this week. It makes confusing sense. Okay.
It's a weird thing. The directions change. It's just kind of funky, and so when it goes wrong, don't feel like it's your fault, because it's just a confusing bit of CAD, of all CAD. It's not just Fusion. This is a confusing part of all CAD. I do wish there was a way to kind of change it so the direction that's positive doesn't change based on view. It's kind of the global. So it's like, oh, towards me will always be positive, negative will always be away, that kind of stuff. I wish that kind of logic exists, but who knows? I think that was the main ones that we saw. Yeah. You guys made some really, really fantastic projects over the week. Can't wait to see more of them next week. But Josh, I have a project that I've been meaning to do for so long, and I'm finally going to be doing it today. It's literally been on a post-it note on my monitor for so long. Okay. I'm sick of it. I'm finally going to be doing it. So I've got a ton of wrenches, and they're taking up way too much space. I hate clinking tools. Do you get that?
To your point about clinking tools, I at some point got completely obsessed with having a silent bicycle. I do not want to hear the chain noise. I do not want to hear pedals squeaking. I don't want to have, I want it to be silent. And
fascinating.
So I've gone deep down the rabbit hole of Jeez.
He's gone down the rabbit hole of coughing bizarrely.
Wow. Yeah. That was just like immediately a little thing in my throat. So I've gone deep down the rabbit hole of trying to minimize annoying sounds. I can absolutely relate to the clanking of those things. I cannot stand it. Maple Leaf Maker says belt drive bicycle. That's right. A belt drive, an internal hub.
Belt drive bicycle.
A belt drive and an internal hub. So belts are almost completely silent. You can't hear that like little chain noise, even if you've freshly oiled your chain, and also you don't have to oil the belt. Belt drive bike, internal rear hub.
I've never heard of that.
And no squeaks, right? No like turning of the wheel squeak, none of that stuff. So okay.
I've now made a vow that every single time that I make a new bit of like IKEA furniture or whatever, or Target furniture, I'm going to be putting paste wax on every single dowel, every single screw, every single plate, because I like my bed was just getting so much more squeakier. And then, like, the old man wisdom of the internet is just like someone just like yelling from the distance, like, use some paste wax. What the hell is paste wax? Like, disassembled every single thing, wax everywhere, putting it together. And the first time you lay on your bed that doesn't have a single squeak, I'm so sleepy all of a sudden. Absolutely amazing. And okay, so coming back to tools, I like going into people's workshops. I really do. Like I've always had the mindset that going into someone's workshop is a physical manifestation of their brain, of their thought process. I truly believe that, because that's where people are creative, but also where they functionally work. So it kind of has left and right sides of their brain. So when I go into a really messy workshop, I know that person knows exactly where every single nut and bolt and screw is and every single scrap of wood. I completely recognize that. But if it's just that one person working in that workshop, that's fine. That's how they operate. Great. If you're working in a group workshop or a makerspace, that's absolutely unacceptable to have that layout. You need to have a different setup. That makes sense. That has its own downfalls. But going into people's workshops and opening their drawers and just seeing like socket heads roll with the direction of it, or like screwdrivers that aren't aligned, or like just totally banal things like that, absolutely bugs me to the core. And I've literally told friends
OCD.
Maybe. I've literally offered friends or friends of ours to like reorganize their shop for them because it's bugged me so much. I'm like, hey, do you want some help cleaning up? And they're like, nah. I'm like, take my offer into consideration. Do you want me to help organize your workshop right now?
You're like, do you want me to help you? And you're already pulling things out of the drawers and like throwing them onto the floors to make a bigger mess of things.
What's this empty can of grease? Right. Or, oh, there's a lot of dust under here. That's kind of hard to get to. Oh, do you need this skinny bit of plywood? Do you really?
Yeah. No, you don't need it. No, you don't.
You actually don't. And as an allegory or as a side thought to this, every single time you buy a tool or a set of tools, set of wrenches, for example, and obviously when they sell it to you, it has to come in a little plastic holder. I hate those plastic holders so much, regardless of what it is, whether it's the blow mold toolbox where the router goes in, or the jigsaw where it never has enough room to put in the cable and that always gets kinked up and weird, or just like the cheap plasticky holders that have like latches and clamps, and I'm like, I don't want to do that. It sucks. I hate it.
How about my favorite thing, where I feel like there's an infomercial here, where when you open the toolboxes that have Allen keys and all the different things, right? What happens when you open that thing?
Oh, and they all slide
the whole
out.
Thing explodes. Like, I'm actually to the point where I'm afraid to open somebody else's toolbox that has multiple different tools and that are supposed to be latched inside of the thing, because I am certain I'm going to have to spend a half an hour individually placing them into the molds and playing a game of like round hole square peg with terrible clips.
Yes.
So I do understand.
Same thing with like the Allen holders. It's 2024. How have we not figured out an Allen key holder where all of them are the same tightness? I feel like some of them are sliding out, and some of them are tight as can be.
Some of
like,
them,
how have we not figured this out?
I was just fixing my espresso machine this weekend. I couldn't pull the Allen key I wanted out of the holder. I couldn't pull it out. I'm like, wow, this would be great if I could fix this, but this is in there. I don't know what you guys did to this. Did you glue this in? Like, what the heck is this? So yes, I have that problem.
So coming back, I have got a bunch of wrenches, massive ones down to tiny ones. And so I'm like, okay, I know what I'm going to do. I'm just going to go on Thingiverse. I'll find a couple different things. Didn't find exactly what I was looking for. Went to my local Harbor Freight, my favorite store in the world. Excuse me. And I was like, oh, cool. It's like 2 different lengths. So then one's straight and one's at an angle, so it can accompany the shortening of lengths as you go to the smaller wrenches. I'm like, oh, that's perfect. That's rad. Didn't even realize the size. Picked it up, and then I'm like, oh, this is so long. This only works on those like extra deep drawers. I'm like, oh god, fine, set it up. And it's like, oh, there's 2 sets in here. It's like, oh, it can hold 40 wrenches. I'm like, 40 wrenches on one track. That's absolutely ridiculous. I hate it. So I'm going to return it. And it actually doesn't even fit. But I like the idea of like stacking them up. And I kind of came across something that I don't think we've talked about. And it's kind of ideating for a personal project, like where you have a problem, you need to create a holder, but where do you actually investigate to find different solutions that you can kind of jump off from, or you can customize their design, or just blatantly steal it, or go, wow, none of these work. I need to kind of come up with my own thing. And the kind of obvious one is go onto Thingiverse or go into Printables and kind of look up exactly what you're looking for. And you'll see a cavalcade of different types of really creative solutions that are all, well, most of them will probably work, but some of them are just not going to be great. And that's fine. And they're all going to be based on for different people as well. Like, I would absolutely... Go on.
So do you know what cavalcade is?
Actually, no.
Yeah, I was like,
it's just a lot of
cavalcade.
Where cavalcade? It's just a lot of things, right?
It is a formal procession of people walking on horseback or riding in vehicles.
Yeah,
I did not know that.
It's many things. Yeah,
there it is.
Cavalcade.
Okay,
it's like the cavalry.
There it is. It starts with the horses.
I know. I love etymology. Anyway, and I, as I'm coming across all of this, kind of going into the philosophy of makers, you kind of very, very quickly realize, oh, I need this to be designed because it's a tool that I don't really use all that often. So I need it to be really tight and compressed and kind of in the corner. And it's fine if it takes an extra second to get to. Or if you know you're going to be using those tools every single day, it's like this needs to be as easy a use as possible. Wrenches, especially big wrenches like this, are not things that I'm going to be using every single day. I'm not a mechanic. I'm not dealing with heavy machinery. I'm not dealing with, large nuts and bolts. That's fine. That can be compressed and put away. And I think it kind of comes to the different tooling philosophy that we've both shared for a long, long time. And it is, if you're wanting to develop a tool set or tool collection, it is absolutely a waste of money and completely unnecessary to buy the most expensive version of every single thing that you need. It is completely unnecessary.
As a matter of fact, I would almost go insofar as saying you should buy the cheapest one you could possibly find and see if you actually break it. Truly, do I break it? Does it strip? Do I actually? Because the vast majority of the time you used it once, it was a one-off part. It was a one-off project, something like that, right?
Use it once a year. That's fine.
So just buy the cheapest, crappiest one you can find, or borrow it from a friend. You don't need to own it. Or go to your local makerspace, or go to your local library, or rent a tool. Probably you won't use it.
Yeah, you'd be shocked. And the thing is, if it's a really cheap, probably crappy quality, and you only use it once a year, that's fine. That's probably going to last your entire life.
Right.
Like that's perfectly okay.
That's right.
And if you end up breaking it, it either means, it was actually an even worse quality than you could even imagine, or you actually do use it a lot more than you think you do.
Yeah.
And both of those are excellent reasons to then go, okay, I'm actually going to invest a little bit more and buy middle tier. Great. And then I think it's another stepping stone. I don't think it has to go from the cheapest thing in the world to the most expensive side. I think there is a middle ground where you go, I'm not going to get the Harbor Freight one. I'm going to get something from Home Depot. And then if that still breaks because you find out you're using this one file every single day, you go, okay, I'm going to find a Japanese manufacturer from a family that's been making this for 100 years and they're the tippity top quality in the world and everyone loves them and they're beautiful tools. It's like, okay, then you can go to that. But don't go from Harbor Freight to that. That's kind of silly. Yeah. I follow that philosophy through and through. I love Harbor Freight. It's one of my favorite stores in the world for getting rinky-dinky, bizarre rando tools. I effing love that.
I love it.
And so, yeah, all my wrenches, they are Pittsburgh, and I wear that with pride because I don't use them all that often, and they're going to survive probably the whole rest of my life.
Just fine. So, Jake, I want you to dive into this project. We did actually have one question from the fabulous Cornelia Nebel. At CADclass, I'm currently working on the challenge of Chapter 7. I would like to connect 3 components with each other, rigid joint ? And have 3 rotate together around an axis. I hoped that the order in which I selected the joints is decisive, i.e. first connect the 3 components rigidly, then assign them the rotational movement to one of them so that the other 2 components are addressed at the same time. But that doesn't work. Do I have to apply a rotary movement to each component individually, or is there a possibility?
That is a really fantastic question. It should work if you just combine. I'm in my mind, I'm thinking of like an inch bar and then a bunch of cubes that have holes drilled into them. You can rigidly attach all of those, and if you ground the rod or the axle and these 3 cubes that are now one rectangle, they should be able to slide on just fine. But I think this is a a great starting point. I think we should jump into this first, and then we'll jump into my project. That's fine by me.
Love it.
So, as we all know, you cannot make joints with bodies. You need to make a component. So I'm going to be making my first component that is an axe, or I'll just call it a rod. That's fine. We're just going to be making a quick little cylinder. We'll call it 10 millimeters by 50 millimeters. Groovy. I'm going to be then clicking or activating the top assembly. That's fine. Then I can ground this component. So that is now solidly locked in place. That may be the one trick. That you're actually trying to add a rotation thing to something that can also move, and it's giving you some errors. That's fine. I'm also going to be making a new component. I'll just call it cube or C1 for cube 1. I'll just make a little box kind of free floating over here. We'll make it 20 by 20 by 20. Groovy. And then again, we can add in that 10 millimeter hole. I'll put it right through the middle by adding in a little construction line that passes through the very center. Make that construction, add a circle to the midpoint, 10 mil. Bob's your uncle, Robert's your brother's mother. Pull it through. There we go. So you got that one. One thing that you can do in the world of Fusion is you can copy and paste some components, but it does mean they are now linked. So right now, if I wanted to make 3 independent cubes with holes in them, I would literally have to make them piece by piece. But you'll notice if I select this component and go Command C, Command V, go, yeah, I'd like to capture that position, and make a copy. These two now have C1:1, that's the first iteration, and C1:2. This is the second iteration. So it looks like they actually are 2 separate things. That's great. Sometimes, and I can never remember why, sometimes they are linked. I think it's when you copy and paste the bodies, not the components. I can kind of get you in a bit of a mess. But I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to copy and paste this other one so I can get 3 cubes. Grand. I actually need to make this rod much longer, I realize. Let's make it 100. Yeah, it's fine. Groovy. I'm also going to go Shift N, which gives me some different colors, makes it a little easier to work with. So remember, this one is totally grounded in place, but we want to join these 3 cubes together and then have them rotate around one of the axles. So Connie's saying this is, she's actually joining these rigidly and then rotationally after the fact and saying it's not working. So let's see if we can work that. So I'm going to go into Assemble and click As Built, Joint, because our 2 components are not in the right location. So I'll just say the center of that circle and the center of that circle. That'll join them up together. The little block right there, that is rigid. That's perfect. I'll do the same thing on this side. There you go. There you go. Locked in place. So now these are free floating and they're all connected together. And then I would like to make another joint. I'm going to change this from rigid to revolute. Again, I'm going to be selecting the snapping point on this one right here. And then again, the snapping point over there. That'll move on. Well, it just previews just one. But as we know, all of these 3 are fully connected. So when I click OK, the other ones come with it. So there's a couple different areas why this would kind of mess up a little bit. I think the grounding, if you don't ground one of your components first, that can introduce a bunch of really rando errors. I would also double check that you are setting these to rigid and not fix, because that will actually fix it in the universe. And that can be a little messy. Hope this helps, Connie. Does that make sense to you, Josh?
It does.
Did I miss anything?
I don't think so.
Cool. All right. Looking good. All right. Going over to my project. So the idea that I was going for is, because this is a tool that I don't really use all that often, I don't actually need to show all the measurements on here where it goes, oh, this is a 7/8 wrench. I don't need to be able to see that and go, oh, perfect. I can just grab it immediately. I can have a little bit of a tester. That's fine by me. This is a little layout of one of my drawers. So it's 566 mil by 275 deep. So I know that if it's going to be, or if my layout is going to be exceeding that, that's not great. So this isn't a guide to actually build within. This is just going to be can I fit it in place? Does this actually make sense? And so the idea is that I'm actually going to be measuring the thickness of these wrenches and the width of the bar portion, and then just treating that kind of like the flat sections. And if I can hold up all of these straight up, then I can compress them as much as possible. I really want to be able to fit these 2 bars in one print if I possibly can. If I have to cut them in half and join them with dovetails later, so be it. But I would really prefer to put them in just one go. So the first thing is just to make a bunch of different rectangles and size it as well as possible, and then essentially make the cutouts and extrude it and then cut off some angles. That's really it. So the first thing is the very, very boring bit. I'm going to have to go through and measure all of these and make sure that I can actually align them in place. So I've got 11 wrenches. I'm just going to start down here from the bottom. Josh, give some commentary while I'm doing this as
well. No, I was sitting here like dreaming. We just posted. So we've got, I'm going to give commentary about, we're running a Sacramento Innovation Grant. And that's coming up this weekend, or not this weekend, but in the coming weeks, giving away 3D printers and teaching folks how to learn CAD. So if you all see a bunch of people entering the Discord from Sacramento talking about the new stuff they're making, just know that we have 24 people that we're giving away 3D printers and computers to. And if you happen to be in the Sacramento region, you too can apply to get a free 3D printer, a free computer, and work through our entire curriculum. And Jake, I'm thinking about making the 12-week program, the focus of the 12-week program, developing products that actually help people do things. That's kind of the general theme I want to go with. And I don't really care who you help, and I don't really care what it helps them do, but helps somebody do something, and it also could be you.
I'm actually really excited for our cohort to see just what they make. I feel like that's going to be a huge amount of fun to see what they actually come up with.
Should be a heck of a lot of fun.
What kind of things are we looking for with this group? What kind of people would you think best show off?
I just posted to the R-Dash Sacramento, and it looks like it climbed towards the top of the program. I basically said I want a mix of ages, skill levels, and backgrounds. So some people who have a little experience with these kinds of things, maybe software developers on the one end, high school students, maybe some middle school students. And I think I want some community leaders as a part of it. I want some individuals who are just makers who really enjoy the process of making things. And then I want some kind of up-and-comers, people that are really excited to get into this world. I would love to have a mix of those 3 things. So the individual makers of whatever age, the younger makers or the younger aspiring makers, and then the community leaders. So if we could do like 3 to 4 community leaders and the rest of them be aspiring makers and current makers who want to introduce some of this, that'd be amazing. That would be amazing.
I'm really so excited for this. I can so see people just going like, oh, this is a scam, right? Get a free laptop and a free 3D printer.
Yeah.
No, I promise it's not. We didn't steal these. We aren't Robin Hood. Please learn our program. Very funky. These are all very, very slightly different sized things. Fascinating. I hope it's not making a massive rattle when I put these wrenches down.
It's not massive. It's noticeable, but not massive.
My apologies for any headphones wearers. Oh gosh, there's so many. Oh no! Oh bloody hell! I miscounted. No.
What's that number that comes after 14 but before 16? Oh, is it 17? I don't know.
Oh, you suck, Josh.
It's so hard.
Oh, I'm gonna have to go through this later. No.
Yeah.
Anyway. Oh my gosh. What a doofus. Didn't even add another one. One of the things that that I'm very, very excited to do is to get every single tool in my entire workshop neatly organized, labeled, and put away. God, that gives me so much joy. I feel like there's this huge part of makers where we all like making stuff. Duh, that's why we're here. but actually making infrastructure and making stuff for our shop, that makes me even happier sometimes. That makes me so unbelievably giddy that it's almost better than actually making stuff. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Yeah.
Like I making is one of the reasons that or it's one of the things that we always tell people when they're getting into a brand new craft or a brand new style of making or learning a new tool. And they're always like, I don't know what to make, which is a perfectly reasonable statement. But the best answer is make a tool or make some shop infrastructure. Because when it looks crappy, or if it looks crappy, hopefully it doesn't, if it looks crappy, nobody is ever going to see it. Nobody. There's not a single person who will look at it and go, "Yeah, that looks crappy." It's like, well, it's for my workshop. It's just like a bench thing. It's not that big a deal. And I'm always telling people, just make something for your workshop. It doesn't have to be anything special, and it will just be the best thing you could possibly do to learn as much as possible. And what was it? Do you have any like first tool things you make you can think of on top of your head?
That I did make with a 3D printer, you're saying?
No. Just like with any tool, because like the first thing I ever made on a lathe, on a wood lathe, I still have, and it was a little handle for a punch. It was a fantastically terrible little scribe with a Purple Hearts handle.
I remember making push block as one of the first things, working on a table saw. You know, immediately I was like, this is torn up and I want my own. Like there's things I want about this, and it doesn't have to look nice. It can just be functional.
Yeah.
And so that was one of the early ones. I also liked, I always liked making things that I will use repeatedly. So cutting boards are just so cool. The skateboard that you and I built, you originally designed, and then we built into the kids program. I always thought that was an amazing project. Not quite a first project, but I like to make things that I'm going to use repeatedly. That's always my favorite thing. And so some of the tool organization stuff, some tool stuff, but a lot of stuff that I'm like, okay, this is something I would just use all the time.
Do you remember what the first thing that you welded was?
Yeah, I mean, I did the nameplate, so just my name, and then but then after that, oh no, I actually do remember the first thing I welded. I was at a junkyard before I ever.
I was going to say, because you've got a crazy welding story.
Yeah, so before I was ever at the workshop, I went to upstate New York. I was living in New York City at the time, and I went to a sugar shack. So a sugar shack is a place where they make maple syrup, and there's this guy Joel, and Joel is an eccentric genius. I'm pretty sure of it, right? Joel had a basement where he was working on a Helmholtz resonator, and essentially this is if you cut holes of a certain size, and you give them a bit of a flare, like a kind of like a mini mountain flare, those holes will resonate at a frequency that you can predict. He had this really loud blower in his basement, and he was trying to use a Helmholtz resonator to silence it so that he didn't piss his wife off. And so he's working down in his basement, and he invented it. He's like, and it works, right? It silenced my machine. It no longer makes these loud noises. This is to paint the picture of Joel. So Joel's missing teeth, right? His whole yard is full of junk, and he's inventing stuff in his basement. I'm like, this is just the wackiest thing ever, right? So I'm out there with him one day, and we're out literally manually grabbing the buckets on trees, pouring the sap into the bigger buckets, and then going in there and boiling it down inside the sugar shack. And I look in his backyard, it's full of junk. He said, "Do you want to learn to weld?" I was like, "Oh hell yeah, I want to learn to weld."
How did you? I'm not sure I know the story of how you originally found him.
We rented a cabin, and the woman who rented the cabin, it was a cabin that was off grid. I don't even think it was legal, but the woman who rented the cabin,
it doesn't sound it.
The woman who rented the cabin said, you're taking the bus in or are you driving in? We're like, taking the bus in. She's like, okay, you're going to need a ride from the bus station to the actual sugar shack. My buddy Joel can pick you up. Do you want to do that? And we're like, yep, absolutely. So Joel is the guy that ran the sugar shack and is who picked us up. And we got there and we're like, who is this amazing character? This is Like, this is as good as the cabin and as good as the experience that we imagined we were going to have. And in the car ride, we didn't even go up there to make maple syrup. We just went up to stay in a cabin. He says, "Oh, by the way, I run a sugar shack." And we're like, I don't even know what that is. I never even heard the term sugar shack before. And he said, "Oh, I just make maple syrup. I make and sell maple syrup." Like, what? He's like, "Do you want to come over to my place tomorrow and make some?" So it's just one of these experiences where, like, you can't plan. It's really hard to plan stuff like that. So very eccentric. Amazing character. One of these, our type of people. He likes to make things. He's got all kinds of inventions and ideas, and he's actually doing it. So that's the story. And then I was hooked.
Good.
And to answer your question, I made a cat out of.
You made a cat.
I made a cat out of old. Basically, he had a junkyard in his backyard. He said, "Go pick out whatever you want, and we'll go weld it together." It's like, deal. Let's do it. And so I picked out like a funnel, and then I had like a spring for the tail, and I had horseshoes for the legs, and it was like I had a bigger like car spring for the body, and I love that cat. It was amazing, and I left it there. I'm like, I'm not taking this back to my apartment in New York. But
were you like, "Oh, piece of shit, I'm not going to take this"?
I liked it. I really liked it. I was super proud of it. But
that's good.
I didn't need to have it in my house.
That's fair actually. I don't think I've made anything in a long time where I kind of stand back and I go, I'm really proud of that. I'm really proud of what I've just made.
Yeah.
And that's a really lovely, wholesome feeling to have.
It really is. It really is.
I'm getting very sentimental today. This is almost done. So I know I'm going to have to come back and actually before I got in this, I'm like, oh, I've got a really easy project. This is not going to take too long. No, this is going to take absolutely ages to do. Because I didn't realize, I have to come up with the length, height, and width of every single component possible. Oh, God, it's going to take forever. But I think this is kind of what I'm going for. Does that look? Can you think of any other better way to do this? I think I'm gonna have to put champs on that as well. Oh gosh, no, it doesn't like that. Can you think of a better way to do this, Josh?
Not off the top of my head, no.
Not off the top of my head either. This may be one of those experiments that ends up either working fantastically or absolutely not at all.
Going in the trash can.
Going in the trash.
That's right.
Oh, but I'm kind of excited to really seriously get my workshop deeper and deeper and deeper into better organization. I'm so excited for that. Do you have any other fusion questions?
I don't think I saw. Connie said, "And if I cannot ground the cylinder?" ?
You might not be able to ground it because it might not be a component. It may be a body. So if I make capture that. If I just make a random box over here, this isn't a component. This is a body. You can see right here, body 1. If I right click it, it does not say ground. So you might be so this is just kind of a fact of fusion. It has to be a component to add joints to it. Muy importante. You cannot add joints between bodies because it's just a 3D representation of a thing where the component is the thing itself. That's the very easy to understand terminology.
The problem is that it is on a movable arm.
It's on a movable arm.
Will be a can opener.
Movable arm. Connie, go ahead and send us a private message where you send us the file, and I will and we'll go through it, and we will double check what's going on with that, because that could be a million things then, because then every single joint that you have and every single component that you have magnifies the areas where something could be going wrong. So send us a file and we will totally reach back out to you and see what's going on.
And Sam says, for your project, after you measured it, did you leave any extra clearance?
I did not. I'm gonna have to go. That's one of the things I'm like, oh gosh. I know for a fact when people are making stuff that they will think, oh, I'm just going to measure my part, chuck it on here, and then I'll go through and modify, the offset face, and I want to make this this gap right here just a little bit wider, so I'm going to have to offset this and then offset that. It is a bazillion times faster to just say, oh, I know I want a 1 millimeter extra tolerance, so I'm going to measure this as 5.1 millimeters, so therefore I'm just going to make it 6.1 millimeters. And because this is just a project for me, I know that's the size of tolerance that's going to be in it. Nobody else needs to know that. If you are designing this for someone else, then I would probably go into the parameters and make a parameter called gap tolerance, and then that is 1 millimeter. And then every single time that I add in the dimension of this width right here, whether it be 4.1 millimeters or whatever it is, say 4.1 plus tolerance, and then if I need to adjust that tolerance after the fact, then I can always go in, update that value, and then it updates the entire model. And that's why parametric design is so lovely. There you go.
Love it. Well, Jake, this has been the CADclass podcast. We will see you all next week. It was good as usual to have you, and we hope you have an amazing week. Cheers, everybody.
Have a good one, guys. Adios.